Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final webinar related to financial aid. We apologize for the late start. We're having some technical difficulties, but now that we're back on track, let me introduce you our speaker for today. Tamika is from A&M Commerce. She started in the telecom industry for WorldCom as a planning engineer for 6 years, and then moved to L3 Communications and worked there for 2 years with the same title. She then went into the financial aid world in 2011 in Tulsa and moved to Texas in May 2014 to work at A&M Commerce as a financial aid advisor. After a year and a half, she was promoted to financial aid processing coordinator for special programs specifically dedicated to financial aid for the Organizational Leadership Program, our CBE degree. She received her bachelor's degree in Business Administration and Management Information Systems from the University of Oklahoma, and she also received her Master's of Business Administration in Electronic Business from the University of Phoenix. Currently, she's working on another Master's of Science in Technology Management from A&M Commerce. Tamika, without further ado, will give you the presenter ball.
Thank you, Carlos. It shows that you can see my screen currently.
Yes, we can see your screen just fine.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Financial Aid Information for CBE Programs webinar. Carlos has already given you a little bit of information about me. My name is Tamika Malone, and I am the Financial Aid Processing Coordinator for Special Programs here at A&M Commerce, and I am specifically dedicated to the Organizational Leadership Program as it relates to financial aid. So I will follow the agenda as you see. I will give a little brief discussion about financial aid as it relates to the TAB program. I will give a brief description of processing, awarding, enrollment monitoring, disbursement, SAP, and then questions. For those of you that do have questions, if you will please ask your questions after the presentation, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, if you do have questions, if you could please tell me your name, your title, and what school you are with. That would really be awesome as well. So I will go ahead and get started now just to give you a little bit of background. So TAB stands for the Texas Affordable Baccalaureate Program, and it started in 2014, specifically with the Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences degree in Organizational Leadership. And this was the first competency-based education degree in Texas. The degree itself is self-paced, which means that students can take as many courses as they see fit in a 7-week term. The courses are every 7 weeks, and then there's 1 week off. The 1 week off is when SAP is performed, which I'll get to that a little bit later. But the tuition and fees for Texas resident students is $750 per 7-week term. So however many students, however many classes a student can take within that 7 weeks, it is only going to be the $750. And I can tell you, I think the most number of hours that I've seen a student take in a 7-week term was 30 hours. So as many as they can take, it's only the $750 for a Texas resident, and then for the non-Texas resident, the tuition and fees is $2,500 per 7-week term. Because of the low cost of the program, the only funds that are eligible are Pell Grant, subsidized, and unsubsidized loans. We do not offer any institutional scholarships, nor do we offer any institutional grants for this program because of the low cost of the program. As far as processing goes, once I get an email from the Organizational Leadership Department to let me know that a student is interested, the first thing that I have to do is go to NSLDS, the National Student Loan Data System, to perform a check to see, one, if the student divulged all of the schools that they got aid from. And what I've been finding is that a lot of, well, not a lot of students, but some students, and it's understandable if they went to a school, say in the 90s or the early 2000s, they don't divulge that they went to that particular school. But those are transcripts that our admissions department has to have because they did go to that school. So in starting out, once I get those emails from orientation, I will check NSLDS to see if we have all of the transcripts for the schools that are showing in NSLDS as where the student received Pell and or loans. And if I see that there are schools that they did not divulge, I will then send an email to admissions to let them know this is what NSLDS showed. We showed that these schools they got aid from, however, we don't have their transcript, and then admissions will take over from there, contact the student, etc. And then once those transcripts have been received, I'm notified. Another thing that I have to do is I have to check to see how many transfer hours they've transferred in, because some students, because of the fact that this program was more catered toward the working student, a lot of them have already taken school in the, gone to school in the past, and so a lot of them transfer in a lot of hours. Well, if they have over 180 hours that they're already transferring in, then they're automatically going to be on suspension for the maximum time frame 150 rule. So with that being said, they're automatically coming in on suspension, and I have to advise them that they will have to appeal in order to be eligible for financial aid. I will kind of touch on this a little bit more when I start talking about SAP, but those are two of the things that I have to do before we can even get to the awarding process, because depending on these two issues here, they may not be awarded because they may not be eligible for financial aid. So as far as awarding goes, I've kind of already mentioned it. They are only eligible for Pell Grant, subsidized, and unsubsidized loans. What I'm finding is that it's half and half as far as students who only want to utilize Pell because of the fact that the cost of the program is only $750. We do have a lot of students that have employment reimbursement, things of that nature, so they don't utilize financial aid at all. I'm not sure what that number is because they're not necessarily on my radar because they're not seeking financial aid, but I do know that we have a lot of students that do go that route. They have veterans benefits, but as far as the students that are seeking financial aid, the only aid they're eligible for is Pell Grant, subsidized and unsubsidized loan. Currently, there are about 150 students that do seek financial aid for the organizational leadership degree. And like I said, it's probably 50-50 as far as those students who want to utilize the loans as well as the Pell Grant. But then there are a lot of students who don't see the benefit in having the additional debt, so they just do the Pell Grant and they're fine with that. Enrollment monitoring, because this program is self-paced, students can enroll in several classes throughout the 7 weeks. So enrollment has to constantly be monitored. Enrollment, I don't check enrollment after the 5th week, but every week I'm checking enrollment because initially students can enroll in 6 hours, and then once they pass 3 of those 6, they're allowed to continue to enroll as they see fit throughout that 7-week program. So this program or this degree calls for a lot of manual manipulation with the current financial aid software that we currently have. Everything that I do and that my counterparts do behind the scenes, all of it is manual because this particular program, because it's 7 weeks on and 1 week off, cannot be automated. So with that being said, I have to physically go in and check enrollment every week to see those students who are progressing to make sure that those financial aid hours are counted in their financial aid status. So once again, a lot of manual manipulation behind the scenes, and I'll kind of get to that a little bit more as well. But for enrollment monitoring purposes, enrollment is checked pretty much every week because of the fact that the program is self-paced. As far as disbursement, disbursement normally occurs the Friday before classes start, and 99% of the time classes start on a Monday, which means that if there is a holiday, that will not give me enough time to do SAP. So in those situations where holidays occur, that may prevent disbursement from occurring that Friday before that Monday class. But the earliest that we'll disperse aid for this program is the Friday before the class starts, and most classes start on Mondays. As far as SAP, the classes are 7 weeks on, 1 week off. So that really doesn't give a lot of time to perform satisfactory academic process calculations. So that 1 week that the students are out of class, as far as financial aid goes, out of that 1 week, I have probably 2 days out of 5 to do SAP calculations for all of the students that we have in the program that are getting financial aid. That's normally because classes end on that Friday, and then the grades may not roll with the registrar's office until that Tuesday or Wednesday. So that's giving me pretty much Wednesday, Thursday to get SAP done, and then Friday is disbursement. So everything with this program, like I said, I can't stress it enough, it's very manual, but it moves kind of quickly as far as things that have to be done. Going back to disbursement for a second, there are specific, and this is just within the financial aid software that we currently use, which is Banner, there are specific aid periods that have to be created for this program because it's not your standard fall, spring, summer aid periods. So specific aid periods have to be created for this unique group of students in order for them to be able to be awarded financial aid, have the financial aid processed, and for it to flow as it does. So as I stated, the program itself started in 2014, and I came aboard as the financial aid processing coordinator in September of 2014. So I wasn't involved in the beginning stages, but I know for a fact that it has evolved over, 2015, I'm sorry, I came on in 2015, but it has evolved since the TAB program started, but there's still a lot of manual manipulation that has to go on in order to make it possible so that students can be awarded. To get back to what I was talking about with the appeals, a student coming in with so many hours that they're automatically on suspension, what they have to do at that point is they have to submit an appeal with their academic advisor, basically giving a reason as to why it has taken them so long to achieve their degree, and then their academic advisor has to outline how many 7-week terms they're going to have to complete before they'll be able to get their degree. So it's not something that would be denied, if you will. It's just that they've come in with so many hours, they're automatically on suspension. So before I can go ahead and award them, before they can be eligible for aid, they have to complete that appeal for 150. Now for students, current students, with SAP, they have to have at least a 2.0 GPA, and they have to complete at least 67% of the courses that they attempt. Well, in the organizational leadership program, they start out with 2 classes minimum. So what that means for them is that they have to pass both of those classes in order to meet SAP. If, for instance, they fail one and pass another, then they're at 50% completion rate. And if they're just starting, that's going to put them on a warning right off the bat. And then if they do that again the next time, they're going to be on suspension. So there's not really a lot of leeway with the organizational leadership students as far as SAP goes, because of the fact that the SAP policy states that 67% of the courses attempted have to be passed. They pretty much either have to pass both classes or they're going to be on suspension or a warning and or suspension if they don't do that. There is a lot of behind the scenes that goes on with this particular program as it relates to financial aid. The software system that we are currently using is Banner. And like I said, there's not too much automation. We're working on that currently. But as far as currently, there's not too much automation with it. So it's everything about this program as far as financial aid is concerned is manual, to the creation of the aid periods, to SAP being manually done for all of the students, that's all manual. So it's a lot that goes into it, but you know, for right now, it's working. The students seem to, you know, not have any problems with how their financial aid is awarded, processed, etc. So it's working for now, but there's always room for improvement. I guess I'll say that. So that's pretty much all I have. I know that there's going to be a lot of questions. I just kind of wanted to give the basics. And then I know that, you know, as you have questions, I can answer the questions that you may have, but that's kind of how the program works as far as financial aid is concerned. So at this point, if there are any questions, and I'm sure there will be, I can go ahead and take questions at this point.
Thank you, Tamika, for that wonderful presentation. As she mentioned, at this point, we're going to open it up for questions. So if you could enter your questions on the questions panel on your GoToWebinar settings, I'll go ahead and read that to Tamika so she can make sure we go through all of them. So Tamika, first question from Jackie Adler. How many students are you dealing with each term?
Each term, it kind of just depends because there's greater enrollment at the start of an academic year. So like for instance, for this particular academic year, we had classes start in September, October, December, February, May, and then we'll have another session in June. So the September and October sessions have a higher enrollment than say the April session or the June session that's getting ready to start. But if I had to put a number on it, I would say probably about 30 to 40 students within a given 7-week term.
Okay. From Federico Pena, how many programs do you have?
Currently, we just have the Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences with Organizational Leadership. I know there are more degrees that are being talked about, but that is the only one so far, the only competency-based education degree that we have currently.
Yes, and we are in the works of building the another CBE program in criminal justice, and we are also talking about a master's degree in competency-based as well. Well, while we wait on other people to ask questions, Tamika, can you talk about more about the manual manipulation that you were talking about? Can you express a little bit more on what that takes, what that looks like?
So that's not something that I actually do. Our IT person and my assistant director for technology, they actually work behind the scenes to make sure that those aid periods are built. So before I can even award any type of aid or anything, the aid periods have to be built first. and all of the testing that goes along with that before I can actually award for the specific aid period that aid is going to be awarded for. So
you have to work closely with other areas such as IT, and then I don't know if you work closely with IER, but so there's a lot of involvement from different departments as well.
There's a lot of involvement with that process, but especially around the time that there's that 1 week off, I rely heavily on the registrar's office to provide those grades so that I can go in and do the SAP calculations. And then, as I stated in the beginning, in processing, I rely heavily on admissions to, one, tell me who is going to be enrolling for the upcoming 7-week term. And then once I, find out students who have not submitted transcripts, I have to work with them so that they can get them those names and IDs so that they can get back with those students to get the information that they need so that I can proceed with getting them awarded when the time comes. So yes, it takes a lot of working with other departments to make sure that everything goes off without a hitch, definitely.
Excellent, thank you. From Jennifer Nalos, how are you determining the amounts to distribute for financial aid?
That is a very good question. So what we used to do is we would, as far as Pell, we would, well, I'll just go total. So we award for the total academic year up front. So for instance, for the 2016-2017 academic year, there were 6 7-week terms within that academic year. So whatever the student is awarded in Pell and in loans, subsidized and unsubsidized, that total is going to be divided by those 6 7-week terms that are in the academic year. Now, what we used to do for Pell is, because of the fact that it's self-paced, we would allow the student would initially only get those 6 hours of Pell initially, and then of course, as we have students that progress, we would do it based off of enrollment. But now what we do is, because of the fact that there's so little aid and so little amount of time with the Pell specifically, we divide the Pell by those 6 7-week terms, or 7 if that occurs, 6 7-week terms within the academic year. So
great question.
I'm sorry?
From Robin Ramsey, what do you do when a student withdraws from a course or courses? Robin Ramsey from CNM Community College in New Mexico.
So let me, go back to the other question just to make sure that I answered it. So for Pell, it's since students can enroll in 6 hours initially, they're getting that 6 hours of Pell. And then if they enroll in other courses, that's all they're going to get to ensure that they have Pell for each 7-week session within the academic year. So once again, the aid that they get is divided by the 7-week sessions within that term up to their cost of attendance budget, to answer that question. For students that withdraw, so if a student withdraws, we have a loan coordinator who will get that information. I can tell you that we don't have too many students that withdraw from the program. Either they'll go ahead and finish the courses that they're currently in and they just won't start for the next 7-week session. But on the off chance, and it hasn't happened very often, that we have a student that withdraws, as long as they stay past the census date, then any aid that they received is not going to be taken back. Now, but for the student themselves, if they withdraw from all of the classes that they take, they're going to be on an automatic financial aid suspension, and they'll have to appeal in order to get aid for the next 7-week term. But as far as a student withdrawing from total classes, that hasn't happened too much with this program.
Okay. From Dr. McAfee, are students notified prior to every term the date payments are due? If so, by phone or email?
So student accounts would handle that, but as far as when payments are due by the first day of class. Tuition has to be paid by the first day of class. They do have the option to, and they are notified, as far as I know, like I said, this is student accounts that handles that. But as far as I know, they are sent emails to let them know that payments are due, and I can verify that because I've had students tell me I got an email saying that I'm going to be dropped from class if I don't pay my tuition. So tuition is normally due on the first day that classes start. However, a student is able to go in and do a tuition loan the tuition loan is mainly for if they have financial aid that something is preventing them from getting the financial aid at that time, like they have a verification issue, or the transfer monitoring hold where they won't have their aid released for 7 days. So if it's something like that and we know that they have aid coming, then they can go ahead and do a tuition loan, and they can be held until such time as their financial aid can pay. Otherwise, if they don't pay by the first day of class, I think they give them maybe that first week, and then they'll start dropping for non-payment after that first week. But they'll start getting notifications prior to the first day of class because the money is due by the first day of class.
Okay. From Jason Briseño, who performs returns to Title IV, and on average, how often does this occur?
So we have a loan coordinator that does the return to Title IV, and that has actually occurred a lot in the past year, I would say. And that's because, like I said, with this program, the 67% completion rate, if a student does not pass one of their courses, they're on a warning automatically, and then they're on suspension. But with the return of Title IV specifically, if a student receives all Fs, of course that prompts a return of Title IV to have to be completed. And I've noticed within maybe the last year that there have been a larger number of students that are receiving all Fs in the classes that they take, which prompts my counterpart to have to do a return of Title IV. So that hadn't happened too much in the 15-16 award year before. So far for the 16-17, we've had students where if they receive all Fs, and like for instance, to put a number on it, I think the highest that we saw in a 7-week term was maybe 20 students who received all Fs. So that prompted her to have to do a return of Title IV on all of those 20 students.
Okay. Tamika, so that's the last question I have for you. I want to thank you for your time and for giving us all this information. For those of you that do not know, we are hosting a conference related to CBE June 2nd. If you're interested, you can email me so I can send you the Eventbrite link. Tamika, again, thank you for your time and that wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone, you have a great day. If you have any more questions for me or Tamika, please feel free to email me, and I'll be sure to send her all the questions you may have. Everyone, have a great day.
Thank you.